Right. Hey, everyone. It's Billy here with Strictly Sales Buckeye Kayak Fishing Trail. And oh my goodness, I've been looking forward to this one for a while. I'm here with Darrell Cornelius. Darrell, you finished first place at the, what do we call that? It was Tour Series event number 5. You got first place. Congratulations, man. Has it sunk in yet that you got first place and that you just completely dominated?
Yeah, I mean, Mogador was my place to go, and I found out that they treated the lake, and grass wasn't there how I liked it. And then that was a pre-fish day on Friday, and I skipped over to Nimbusilla about 11:30 the same day on Friday. Caught a 22 and a quarter inch largemouth on it pre-fishing, and I just I didn't like it. I shook a couple off at Mogador, shook a couple off at Nimbusilla, but I didn't have any pattern. I didn't have really anything to go off of. And so that morning I was heading to Mogador. I was like, I'm just going to fish Mogador. Well, to go left on the same road, you go to Mogador, go right, you end up at Wingfoot. I'm like, no, I'm going to Wingfoot. So I winged it on Wingfoot. That's where I ended up.
I really do want to talk to you about all of your pre-fishing before we get into the actual tournament, because you did spend some time at some of the other ones. But before we get into your pre-fishing, before we talk about all your success, I do want to mention that we had 55 anglers, 200 fish caught, and listen, everyone, Darrell came in with 93 inches. So just to put that into perspective, in Ohio, I went through preparing for this podcast. I went through last year's standings, and Darrell would have won 10 of the 11 or whatever we had last year. I'm including the classic, I think. All but one of the events would have been won with 93 inches. So 93 inches was not, you just didn't win. You dominated. And there were, I mean, all the way back to maybe 10th place or so could have won an event easily. And you just dominated. I mean, second place. And Reese did an amazing job. I mean, Reese came in 87.5 and you had 93. Domination was kind of the name of the game there. But I've never been into Greek mythology or any of that stuff, but I did kind of research it a little bit because I pulled up some pictures of Wingfoot and I noticed that they had that big Goodyear blimp hanger, and I've never fished at Wingfoot. So I looked into it a little bit, and it was the Greek mythology figure was Mercury, and Mercury was the messenger, the one that brought all of the information to everyone else. And that was the sandal with the wing on it. And I thought, that kind of sounds like Darrell. So you, my friend, chose the right lake. You had Nimbusilla, Mogador, and Wingfoot, and that's what you chose. And again, I know, don't read any more into it. I don't know anything. I'm not a Greek mythology person. Let's start with your practice. And talk to me about your strategy going into that and what you did.
All right. So Friday morning, took off and wanted to start at Mogador because again, that's my lake that I would choose out of all three of them, right? Excuse me, right? So I ended up there, got out 6:30. Started off. I usually during my pre-fish, I'll have a bait that has a hook and most 3 or 4 other baits with no hooks. And what I like to do is I like to catch a few, and then I like to shake off a few. So I'm going through there and tied on a chatterbait and no hook. I cut the hook off of an old chatterbait I had, and I mean, they were so angry that they were holding on so tight. You could bring them in almost all the way, and then you just shake them off, you know. Then I caught probably Mogador. I probably caught 5, hooked 5, and probably shook off 8 to 10. I didn't really count. All small fish. Nothing big. Was getting a little bit nervous because Mogador has some big fish, and motored around and just looked at the grass and noticed that they must have treated it. It's the only thing I could come up with because that lake is really grassy all the time. Well, with that being said, you kill off grass, it's going to mud up the lake a little bit. So I wasn't liking what I seen. Ended up at the end of the lake. It's around 11:30. This is after I didn't fish for the next probably 3 hours after. It was mostly a morning bite when I caught my 5, and then I shook off 9 to 10, 8 to 10, somewhere around there. So about 11 o'clock, I decided I'm going to go over Nimisila. I haven't fished Nimisila in a couple years. Actually, one of the guys said we pre-fished it, and I don't recall doing it, but I guess we did. But anyway, I ended up over at Nimisila. Couldn't even tell you what boat ramp I went to. And all I know is there was power lines overhead, pretty good sized power lines, and went in there, very clear, a lot of grass. Again, I can't recall the lake. I don't know it as well as Mogador. I used to fish it as a kid. So I get out, caught a little 13-inch bass, shook it off on a Ned rig, no hook. Went around and same Ned rig, but this time I had a hook. And I was over under the power lines, just tossed out. It was a big grass line to come through. And man, I see my line take off. I was actually really not paying attention. And I see my line just going off. I reeled down and, I was using a spinning reel, so I didn't want to, when I see water that's that clear, I usually run like 15-pound braid to a 6-pound fluorocarbon leader. And so I just reeled into it and set the hook real gradual. And I noticed it wasn't moving. And next thing you know, I'm fighting this 22.25-inch largemouth. And then I after I got that in, I actually I didn't measure it because I forgot my board in the truck. So what I did is I put it up on my net and I made a mark on my net, and then I measured it later on, right?
Yeah, but was the mouth closed?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
But it was
all right. Go
facing
ahead.
the direction. So I motored around, looked at it, kept getting nervous. I wasn't feeling it. I went out on some points, and I noticed the wind was not as choppy as I like it on a clear lake. Clear lakes like that, I like it really, really windy. And I don't know, I wasn't feeling it. And I says, well, I'm going to make a decision, even though I did okay at Mogador, but I don't think I would have pulled 75 inches there with the fish that I had. And I don't think that would have been the winning bag. So after Nimisila, I left around 4 o'clock and I was done. And I had to make that decision the next day where I was going to head.
Well, you made the right decision. So you head out in the morning, and that morning the wind wasn't too bad, but it did start to pick up pretty early. What was your experience with the conditions on Wingfoot?
Well, as I was driving out, like I said before, I was going to go to Mogador. I ended up going to Wingfoot, and I knew the wind. I looked at it that night, and it was going to be 14 to 20. I think I seen on there, and I was excited. I wanted that. I fished better than that. I knew it was going to be sunny, and I like a chop, unless it was muddy water. But I knew that. Put it this way: last time I fished Wingfoot, I was 15 years ago with my dad, and that was the last time I fished it. So I haven't even been on Wingfoot for 15 years. And last time I was there, it had grass, but not like it was. So driving out, I knew the wind was going to be up. I like that. So I get all rigged up, and to believe it or not, I didn't even get into the water. there was another angler down there already put in, and he was already set off making his cast. I didn't start till like 6:30 almost. And I was running running a little behind getting my boat rigged up and whatnot. So anyway, I put in and I get out there and I can't even move. The grass, it's like 10 foot deep and the grass is all the way at the top. I can't even move my kayak. And you know, I run the Chiquito on the back of my Hobie, and I couldn't even put my motor down, and I couldn't even get through it with that. So I had to paddle through it. And believe it or not, I never used my motor the whole time during the tournament. I pedaled that whole way.
Yeah. Oh wow! What do you have? Do you have a pro angler?
Yeah, I got the Pro Angler Hobie Pro Angler 14 360, and yeah, it's a tank, and usually you don't have any problems, but the weeds were so thick, and it was really hard to get through. You have to get pockets as soon as you got out, probably, I don't know, 50, 60 yards off the bank. It started to clear up a little bit because there's only two big holes in that whole lake. The left side, the center is about 15 feet, and then there's another big pocket on the right side of that lake. So it's just a big round, basically almost like a reservoir with a lot of grass and not so much rock.
The rest of your day turned out pretty well. But before we get into your first fish, so you get out there in the morning, you paddle, you pedal/paddle through all
Correct.
the grass. You get out there. Talk to me a little bit more about the late start, because you're not the only one. I took my son out there. I had messaged you before the event, and I told you that I had paid the extra fee to have my son go with me, and we had an amazing time. He was paddling. We were out on Nimasilla. We were also running late, but that's a given. You know, we had to eat breakfast and things that I would skip if I was by myself. Talk to me a little bit about, because you're not the only one. I saw some others that were running late. Like what causes someone to run late to a tournament?
Me, usually never. I'm an early person. I'm up without an alarm clock, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. It's my biological clock, man, just says time to get up, I guess. And I just miscalculated my drive. Basically what it come down to. I set my GPS up, and again, I hadn't been to Wingfoot and I don't know how long, so I really couldn't even remember after 15 years how to get there. So I just GPSed it, and then I'm sitting there pouring my coffee. I had all my boat was in the garage, ready to go in the back of my truck, and everything was in there. I just had to grab my coffee, and that's it. And man, I set the GPS up, sat in my truck, opened the garage door. I'm like, boy, I'm going to be late. This is it's going to be interesting. So. You know, I wasn't too worried, but I don't like to be late, especially at a tournament. I'm very, very, very competitive. It doesn't matter if it costs $5 entry or $2,000 entry. I'm just a kind of a competitive guy. I love the tournaments, you know. So I didn't want to be late, but that's how I ended up late. It was just miscalculation of my time.
Yeah, man, I love the competition, and just because I don't know how long these podcasts live on the internet, my son would probably correct me that I had my alarm set for 3 a.m. He actually woke me up at 12:30. We were actually late because I just moved slow in the morning. So, and then the other part is there's Apple Maps, and then there's Google Maps and Waze, and I use Waze. But Waze wants you to put in the address, and that's my preferred way. So I did a pin drop with Apple Maps, and Apple dropped me like a mile from the ramp and told me to park my truck and walk. And my son looks at me. I'm supposed to be I'm the leader in this vehicle, and
that's funny.
Yeah,
that's funny. So, you ever got stuck on bicycle once?
No.
Yeah, that happened to me. I'm like, what? And before I've drove this before, I just don't remember. It's like a half hour from here. It's saying 3 hours and 20 minutes. So I had it on bicycle. So don't ever do that.
I did switch my Apple Maps. I switched over, or it might be Waze, over to British, like a British accent. And when I'm in my car, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so dumb. Why did I ever do that? Because I thought it was funny, whatever. And it was like you have to be connected to Wi-Fi to switch it back to English.
Oh
And
no.
I'm like, okay, well, I'll do it when I get home. When you're at home, you don't remember. You only notice when you're on the road.
Yeah, right.
So I've been stuck probably for about a year. My phone GPS has been stuck with it.
I'll
Pretty
have to
sure.
remember that.
So let's jump to the part where you've made it out. I don't know, it might be 7 o'clock by now. Who knows? And you're getting to a spot where you're feeling good. Okay. And then talk to me about your bait selection and even more importantly, I guess, like the structure. Like why did you go to the spot where you went at 7?
Um, well, when I first got in the water, being late, it was already pretty much daylight already. So I could get a real visual, of what I was dealing with as far as structures, laydowns, grass, whatever it may be, that would hold bass. Well, everybody knows that bass like to get in the grass in the thick of it. So what I did is I went up shallow, and my go-to bait is with my conditions where I was at. It was fairly clear, had a little bit of a stain to it, probably just enough for a reaction bait in the wind to be, I mean, absolutely the best ideal bait or lure for that application for that day. So I picked up a chartreuse and white spinnerbait with a gold willow. Now, keep in mind, I tried another spinnerbait, didn't have any luck with it. So I was actually using a 3/8 ounce. I wanted it light because I wanted a lot of lift on it because the grass was real thick. So I threw a chartreuse and white spinnerbait with a gold willow and then a silver Colorado blade up front. I'm sorry, behind in the back. So that would give it a lot of slow roll to lift that up. And then I paired that up with a Kitech. Well, my Kitech that I have is just it's I can't remember the name of it, but it's just got the blue back with the clear bottom on it. And I started throwing it up. Well, I was getting short strikes, and I couldn't figure out why I was getting short. I was thinking about pulling the trailer off and putting your trailer hook on, and I'm like, nah, I don't like that because of the grass. I would have started just completely getting choked out in the grass with that. So what I did is I got some chartreuse dip, and then I dipped the tail in it, give them a little bit better target to actually eat the tail. Because what I think they were doing, I think they were smacking the blades. I think they were trying to hit the blades instead of committing to the actual back of the trailer. So as soon as I tipped that with the chartreuse, it was every time I hit a pocket where on the bank and I threw that spinnerbait up. I mean, I had issues with my phone submitting out there. I couldn't understand it. Everybody thought I was sandbagging, and I really wasn't. I couldn't submit fish. And most of my fish came later on, which we'll get into here. But I caught I can't remember what exactly. I caught a 12. I caught a 13 and a half, and another 13. And it was just as soon as I tipped that back of that Kitech, that swim bait and that chartreuse dip, it was just that was the ticket. And I knew with that wind, it was going to be all day long. I never picked up another bait. It was that good. I found the pattern that quick. Very fortunate. And I ended up going around, and I got up into a big wind-blown pocket, and it was about 8 foot deep, and the grass was only about 6 foot, and there was a big rock pile there. And I'm like, wow, this is going to be good. It was just all open. No grass was even growing in the rock. And so I just chucked that spinnerbait out there. I actually put my power pole down and stood up and just started chucking and winding. And after about my fourth cast, I caught my first, I think it was 18 3/4 or 18 1/4. Again, I can't remember exactly, but it was a good fish. And then after that one, the bite completely stopped for me. I couldn't figure out anything for a while. And after that, I went around the lake. Again, I couldn't motor, which actually I didn't want to because I only used the motor from point A to point B. But went around, finally hit another point, and I noticed some other anglers, and they're saying that they're having a real rough day, and I'm like, I'm thinking to myself, I'm having a pretty good day, but I don't want to, I don't want to be that guy, right? But anyway, so I hit a couple more pockets, and I'm catching fish, but I can't upgrade. I can't call them because my service was bad. And then after that, I went straight across, and I went out to the deep and tried to see if I could pick up some fish out there. There was no grass. It was, I don't know, I think it was around 15 foot deep. Real sparse. I got right on a grass line. Didn't mark any fish. So this was going on for, oh man, I'm guessing it was probably 1 o'clock.
Oh, wow.
1 o'clock. And I had all small fish. The only thing I had was an 18 and a quarter, 18 and 3/4, and then all them 13, 12, 13-inch fish. I had a bag, but that was it. And it wasn't great. I mean,
So let me ask you about, before we get into your big fish, because it sounds like it's 1 o'clock and things are about to fire up. Either it's a feeding window, you find the right structure, you're throwing the right bait, a combination of all those things. It's about to go down with Darrell. But when you caught the 18 and a quarter, whatever that was, what do you see on your graph? Are you looking at the surface? Is it because of the water clarity? How do you know for sure that you were on a rock pile amongst like a lot of grass? How'd you know?
Just looking at my graph, you could see the transition. It depends on what palette you use on your graph. I use an amber one. I use a Garmin, and when I get an amber color palette that I use, that I selected, it's just my preference. I was choked out in grass the whole way through the lake until I got to that spot. Well, when I went over it, the grass actually dropped off, and it was just it was a pocket, probably 50 feet by 50 feet, just a big circle. And it was a windblown bank. It was a big pocket in there. And once I wanted to go over top of it, as soon as I went over top of it, there's no grass. I noticed that my amber color turned to it like a bright orange. Well, that on my graph means, on my palette, means that is actually hard bottom, which would be rock. So as soon as I found that, I drifted off of it, and I'm like, okay, well, I went over on the bank, flipped a few, and then I went back to that spot. I gave it about 20 minutes in case maybe I did spook something off. I don't know. It was blowing pretty good, so I doubt that I would have affected that. So about 20 minutes later, I made a big circle, went back on that point, and that's when I power pulled down in the grass, because if I couldn't, I can only go down probably about 7 feet before my pole gives out. And the grass was about 4 feet. It was actually 10 feet deep, but the grass was up to about 4 feet, and then it stopped. So I would still drift with my power pull down, but it would hold me pretty good to make quite a few casts, just fan casting, over that rock point. And like I said, it was like third cast. That's when I picked that big 18 and a quarter, 18 and 3/4. I can't remember.
Nice. Well, nice job, man. So you have the PA-14 360 with the Torpedo and the power pole, and your power pole is also on the back. Does that mount?
Yes, it's on the mount of the Torpedo. So it's oh boy, I wish I knew the guy's name. I can't remember the company's name. But anyway, it's a mount that you can hook your power pole and a Torpedo to.
Talk to me about your spinnerbait box. So you open it up. I know we have guys that have all the different, Colorado and Willow, and they've got, like you said, the gold and the silver, because you had the combination. Some guys will like build a custom bait like on the water Is your spinnerbait box like, do you customize your baits or do you buy them the way you want them?
I'll buy them, but then I can customize them how I want them. I can flip flop baits. I mean, I'm not brand specific to anyone. Actually, the one I was using came like it was. I really didn't modify anything other than the Kitech by, dipping the tail. And some guys like to make them run goofy. They'll bend the blade out one way or the other, make them run. And actually, what you do, it depends on what side of the bank you're running. You can actually bend the blade out. And if you see a lay down and you want it to run with that lay down, but you're not positioned right, you can actually bend the blade and it'll run with that lay down without even messing with it. And then you can just bend it and, and tweak it back to where you want it to run straight, I didn't really feel that I needed to change any of that. I just ran. Matter of fact, I was using a Picasso. That was the brand I was using. It was a chartreuse and white Picasso 3/8 ounce spinnerbait, and with that little gold willow and the silver Colorado. The reason why I chose what I chose is because I wanted lift. I didn't want it to be down in the junk. I didn't want it to be in the grass. It wasn't the presentation that I wanted for the application. It would have gotten hung up too much. And that's just the number one reason why I chose that. It wasn't anything. I would have changed it depending on what lake, everything changes, I mostly run all willows, silver willows. But that's based upon bait fish, area, wind, water clarity, water temp. Sometimes there's so much that goes into it that would change. But I don't know until I got there and see what the forage is, right? That's how I would change that.
So many things going through your head.
It is,
in a short amount of time and then you made the right decision. Good job, man. Take me, let's fast forward a little bit or a lot bit. All right, you start catching. It's 1 o'clock. All right, go.
So I see all these fish in the morning. I cut them all over the bank, small fish, 118. And finally get over to, it was like, no stairway to heaven. It was the lily pad field that I just absolutely smiled from ear to ear on. And so it was good 200 yards long. And I ended up right on the edge of it, the start of it, from the bank to bank, all the way back to the boat ramp. It was that close to the boat ramp. If I would have just started there, right? I don't even want to get into what I could have had. But anyway, I started, it was right around 7 feet deep, and the lily pads were so split up. And there were probably, you'd have a cluster of them, but predominantly all the lily pads were within 2 feet of each other. So what better way to throw a spinnerbait when it's wind blown in a lily pad field? I mean, I throw spinnerbaits in thick lily pads. People are like, you don't get hung up. I'm like, never. Sometimes you might hook a leaf, but you just, I use 20. It depends on the application. 25-pound mono, or I'll use a braid, right? Depends on how thick and what I'm doing. Well, anyway, so I get up there. It's like 7 foot deep, and I make 15, 20 casts. And there's actually a guy probably 200 yards to my left fishing. I can't recall his name. Anyway.
But in a kayak, like a tournament angler?
Oh, yeah. He had a PA.
Okay.
I think he had the Amazon green one.
Okay.
350. I think he had the same kayak I did. And I didn't want to get in his way, but he was pretty posted up on that spot. He wasn't moving. So I don't want to get in somebody's run. I don't fish like that. I stay away from people. Just, it's called respect. So anyway, I wanted to see what his decision was, and he's posted up there, and he didn't move. So I proceeded to keep going where I was. Like I said, I was 200-300 yards from him. Well, anyway, I made like 15, 20 casts, and it was, I seen this big chunk of lily pads, and the wind was blowing so hard that it made like a U, like an, well, yeah, like an upside down U, like facing. So it was just blown, really blown hard. And I threw right in the center of that, 19 and a quarter. I'm like, huh, okay. And got that one measured up. And then not even 15 minutes later, I would come up to another patch of lily pads, wind blowing against it, threw up in that pocket, 19 and three quarters, I think that one was, 19 a quarter. And then see, 20 minutes, half hour goes by. I get up there again, miss a giant. I mean, I just threw in. The pattern was that I found in a lily pad field was you find the thick of it and you threw up into where that pocket, that wind was blowing up against, they were setting right in it. And I was missing giant fish, and it was consistent. There were so many big fish in there. Like, I could imagine just having all my buddies. I mean, everybody would have been like smiling and having a good time. There was just that many big fish, right? So I continued on, and I just kept one big fish after another. I lost big fish after another, and then I threw in. I got on a big section of lily pads all together, and I threw right on a point. And then I caught a 20 and a half, which she was spawning. She was actually spawning. Her tail was, people say that they don't spawn. Bass do goofy things. I mean, people have seen them spawn in the fall. I mean, people say that it's not impossible. You can actually talk. I've talked to fish biologists and have caught bass or shock. They actually shock them, and they have shocked bass in the fall spawning. So I can't justify why. I mean, we all know when they usually spawn, when the most of them, they get out there, that 60-degree water temp, 60, 65, and they do their thing, right?
Right.
But I had water temp 72, it got up to 75 by that time at the end of the day. And I pulled that big female in, and she still had some eggs in her. It's not like she was all skinny. She had a belly on her. She was fat. All the fish I caught, all them big females I caught had bellies on them.
Talk to me about the big one you caught pre-fishing over in Nimasilla. Was that a spawning bass?
No bloody tail.
No. Okay.
She was fat. She looked more post spawn bass. I don't think that one was spawning at all. I didn't see any indication of her tail being messed up, and that was, I mean, I caught that thing on a little tiny, I mean, small Ned rig. I mean,
okay.
I actually cut it down from a Senko. It was small, so it was like a micro Ned, right?
Yeah, I guess we're talking about length versus you're saying they had big old bellies. So I don't know that this one would have been even if it was spawning, it would have just been a heavier bass. That we're not weighing them anyway. We're catch, photo, release, and all that. So,
right. I wish I would have.
Heck yeah. Do you ever, I got two questions for you. One, do you ever weigh your fish when you catch a big one?
I used to till my scale broke, and then I never bought one. I don't, never went out and bought another scale. So
okay.
I measure them.
Fair enough. Yeah. Well, I mean, we know when they're 5 pounds, and then we know when they get to 6, 7. I guess 10 pounds would be the next one to weigh.
Yeah. The 22 and a quarter, I would say probably weighed 15 pounds. We'll just say that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That's what I was. That's funny. My other question that I'd like to ask recently is there a difference between the amount of rods? This is kind of a random question, but the amount of rods you take out with you when you're pre-fishing versus your tournament day setup?
Oh man, I'm really bad at this. I've learned to start rigging lighter. My kayak is, I'm surprised it floats sometimes. it's, it's like 40-pound worm bag up front, and then I got my H crate in the back, which the H crate is what holds all your tackle and stuff or whatever you want in there, rain gear, however. But yeah, I got it plumb full of all my terminal tackle and this and that. So I've learned to put it this way. If I go to a big tournament, like one of these big high dollar buy-in tournaments, I'll take everything I got because we're traveling, right? And you don't know what you're going to expect during pre-fish. So you take everything you possibly can with you. Some guys are like, I don't need to. I need 3 rods and a couple baits. I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. But it's just, I like to take a lot of gear when I'm pre-fishing. And then what I do is once I build a pattern, then I just leave whatever. If I'm in a hotel or my truck, whatever I'm doing, I'll end up taking probably no more than 4 or 5 rods. And then, the few things that I feel confident in for my pre-fish day. But we all know that pre-fish is not always foolproof because things change really quick. So with that being said, I usually I do half of what I used to because you never know what can happen, right?
Well, listen, man, you took me all the way up to, I think we were after 2:00. We were between the 2 and 3 o'clock hour, and the tournament ended at 3. So you caught a lot of really big fish between 1 and 3, but it sounds like you caught a lot of them around 2:00.
Yeah, I would say that. I had 84 inches I finally put up on the board. And then I never look at the leaderboard until I have 5 fish. It's bad luck for me. I used to do it, and it didn't. All it did was create more anxiety and stress for me. Like, oh man, I'm really doing bad. I'm just, and I got in my own head with it. So I stopped doing that. So I get 5 fish, and then I look at the leaderboard and I see where I need to upgrade from there. Right? Well, how much? What do I need to do? What do I need to focus on? Where do I need to concentrate? And I had 84 inches. I'm like, this is pretty good. I'm pretty excited, right? And then, like you said, it was about 2:00, between 1 and 2. That's when I started catching my big fish, and I'm like, wow, if this continues, I mean, this is great. Actually, a matter of fact, about a half hour before the end of the tournament, I lost probably another 22-inch fish. I would have put over 100 inches, easy. I easy put over 100 inches, but she smacked that spinner bait and she flung that thing up. I mean, it caught her in the lip. I had her on for maybe about, oh my gosh, seconds, right? And then it just popped up. And when you see that bait pop off a bass's mouth that big and it comes flying, even though you caught some good fish, it still crushes you, man. You're like, are you serious? Like that would have been big fish, right?
Well, congratulations, man. You killed it. I want to kind of talk a little bit more about, not everyone can see what is behind you, but you do have some trophies. I know you won the classic, the Buckeye Kayak Fishing Trail Classic last year out at CJ Brown, but you have some other trophies behind you. I want to talk a little bit about, some of your experience with other trails. Talk a little bit about your experience on the Hobie BOS, and then also your sponsorship. Give a little shout out to them. So,
well, I got the one trophy's a big bass at Clear Fork. Caught it was a 20-inch bass. Got a big bass on that one. Then we got my classic trophy, and then the Nemasilla, Wingfoot, and Mogador trophy I just got that we're discussing now. And then I have a 5th place team Crossroads for Topwater. It was a trail that they put together up in Michigan. And actually what it is a team event where all over, I think there's 5 different states where you go as a team. You have 5 teams, and I actually qualified for it. And I was pretty excited about that, but I ended up in 9th place as an individual. And then I got 5th place as our team, which was pretty good because there was quite a few teams. So that was at Sancris Lake, Illinois. And man, was that a fun lake. I caught over 100 bass there. It was amazing. I had a good time there. But as far as trophies goes, that's all my trophies. That's all I got right now on my showcase.
Well, I joked with you earlier because I have a TikTok channel, and I kind of panicked. I didn't have any fishing material, so I turned to makeup because I thought it would be funny. But I was telling you before we hit record. Hey, by the way, go check it out. It's Billy Kayaks. Oh, can I do that?
It's hilarious.
Can I do that on Buckeye Kayak Fishing Trail podcast? Plug my. I don't know, but I have an idea to build a trophy case and make the video is about me building it and the design and all that, and then I reveal at the end that the trophy case is empty. So you're doing good with what you have. Well, let's talk a little bit about your affiliation with Hobie.
Yeah. So I'm sponsored through Sun Valley Sports in Akron, Ohio. I got with them, let's see, 2020, actually 2019. I was actually on the team and I did a lot of help. But since I got late in the season, they didn't have a boat available for me. But them guys up there are great. The Hobie Bass Open tournaments. And if you guys, the Hobie Bass Open series, you guys got to check out those events. They're amazing. The tournament director is hands down. It's just a professional event. It's really good. Those guys, I would like to make more of them, but they're, with work and life balance, it's I try to make at least 3 to 4 a year. That's what I'm trying to. I'm going to try to hit Susquehanna River here coming up. That's an idea. But with me moving and all, we're going to see where that takes me. Maybe I might be able to slip away for 4 days on that one, get a little pre-fish. I heard there's some giant smallies up there. But anyway, yeah, Sun Valley Sports in Akron, you guys check them out. And my kayak, the reason why I'm so passionate about them is because the kayak I fish out of, it's just hands down. I mean, we go up into Lake Erie and 4 or 5 foot rollers fishing for smallmouth up on the islands, no problem. I mean, I have never felt unsafe. I'm not going to lie, it's been scary at times, but you just got to use some common sense on what you're doing. But as far as being, a tank in the water, they're hands down. They're great kayaks. They make a whole line of them. You guys can, check those out. You can get on Hobie.com, check all that stuff out. Sun Valley Sports also, they'll have you can get on there and check their stuff out as well.
Is there anyone else? I know we talked about Hobie. Anyone else you want to give a shout out to before we wrap it up?
Yeah, let's give a shout out to Blue Rock Custom Tackle. You have some terminal tackle, soft plastics, really good tube jigs, make a good spinner bait, really good spinner bait, make a good buzz bait as well. Boy, them things really screech. You want a good screeching, noisy buzz bait, get a Blue Rock Custom Tackle buzz bait. And yeah, we got Biz Baits, another company I paired up with here. And kind of a cool little story. They also paired up with another company, which is True South, which is another terminal tackle company. And they make some jigs and some buzz baits as well. You guys check them out as well. Really good company. So we got Blue Rock Custom Tackle, Biz Baits, and then we got Hobie. That's what I got for now. And keep it simple and just keep fishing, right?
There you go, man. So no matter what happens, we know kind of what you're going to be throwing, and we know with your finishes already this year, we'll probably see you at the Classic, even if you miss a couple more events. And hope to see you there. And enjoy the rest of the season, everyone. Tight lines. Thanks, Darrell.
Thank you.
See you later, man.
All right, we'll see you.
Bye.
Bye.